This is a video about legal research skills and why they're still important in an era of AI. Now, this video is directed to people who are starting to learn about legal research and may be forgiven for thinking, well, why do I need to learn these skills now? Surely AI will do it all for me. Well, here I'll present you with 4 different reasons why learning those skills is still very, very important, if not more important than ever before. Now, a quick pedantic side note, and as lawyers, we all like to be pedantic. The term AI is used quite wrongly here, but I'll be using it because most of the people promoting these products are calling it AI. So there's nothing actually very intelligent about these systems, and to be quite correct, we should call them large language models. But I just want to acknowledge that at the beginning, before we go on, that I know that the term AI is largely hype, and we'll get back to what some of the problems are. So number 1, and this is I want to, if you take nothing away from this video, take away this one. The most important reason for learning legal research skills is that you've got to have skills, and you've got to be able to demonstrate those for employers, for your first job and throughout your career. And what I mean by this is no one is going to employ someone if an AI can do their job for them. Now, I know you've probably heard a lot of hype about, these new 21st century jobs where we're going to hire people with knowledge of AI who can use AI, and that's pretty much all snake oil. If you look at who's promoting that, that's pretty much the companies who are selling those products. Now, and also people who believe it, and unfortunately I've heard it way too often from people in universities too, saying we're going to produce graduates who are AI capable, blah blah blah. Now, when you think about it, if an AI lets you search using sort of natural language, asking a question, why would you hire someone to ask that question? It doesn't make any sense. It reminds me of the sci-fi parody film Galaxy Quest, where Sigourney Weaver's character, her whole job is to ask the computer questions and repeat what the computer has to say. It just doesn't happen in the real world.
Computer, is there a replacement beryllium sphere on board?
Computer, is there a replacement beryllium sphere on board?
Negative. No reserve beryllium sphere exists on board.
No, we have no extra beryllium sphere on board.
That is really getting annoying.
Look, I have one job on this lousy ship. It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it, okay?
Sure, no problem.
Now, the latest data on the job market is honestly not great for law graduates. In the United States, it's been anticipated that over the last 2 to 3 years, 60% of entry-level law jobs have gone. That's more than half. And they've gone because these jobs have been replaced by AI systems. So these are not people whose jobs have transitioned from being an entry-level lawyer to being the entry-level lawyer who types things into ChatGPT or the new developing legal AI systems. Those jobs are just gone. And there's also a spill-on effect for that. That means, these jobs are the jobs that went to people from Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge are also going. And where are they going to go? Looking for jobs. They're going to move into other markets. Now, we're not worrying so much about those from Harvard. If they want to practice in Australia, they've got to do all their extra units and may not want to do that. But there's certainly going to be people from Oxford and Cambridge who are going to start looking at the Australian market as somewhere to apply for jobs as well. So if there's a squeeze down from the top, and if you're not really, really capable and really able to evidence those skills in terms of research, you're not going to have a hope. Now, increasingly, we're seeing employers also looking to look more closely at people's skills before they employ them, actually putting them through tests, actually running them through scenarios and getting them to show off what they can do. Hasn't picked up so much in law yet, but I know in accountancy, it's a really big deal. And many of the big international firms are even prioritizing people who can demonstrate what they can do, even over people who have degrees, and saying, well, we can organize you to get qualified later. We want people who can actually do things. And in that scenario, saying, well, I can ask the computer what it thinks, doesn't really cut it. So it's not great news, and it gives me no pleasure at all to tell you about this, but the job loss is going to be real. It's going to have a major impact in the next few years, from the next foreseeable future, on law graduates and in graduates across the professional fields. And it's going to have a long-term impact as well, because part of the point of having entry-level trainees in an organisation, in your profession, is that they will slowly learn the skills they need to become the next level, the next generation of experts in that field. If we lose most of our entry-level law positions, where are we going to get those new lawyers from? Interesting question, outside the scope of this video. And I suspect there'll be some canny operators that will still maintain a pipeline of lawyers in their organisations, but unfortunately most organisations, particularly corporate employers, are just going to say, I could pay $100,000 a year for an entry-level lawyer, or I could pay $100 a year for a license for this AI system. I don't understand how AI systems work. They seem to be magic. It's a no-brainer, though. I'll go for the AI every time. So your first point, and I think the most important point, is learning legal research, which connects all sorts of, it's not just finding out information, it's about problem solving, it's about framing questions, it's about finding solutions, it's about expressing solutions. It's a whole series of nested and interconnected skills, is going to remain very important, and it's going to become something that at some point will become in demand, and the smart people are going to still want to be able to see employees who can do it, but it's going to become increasingly hard to compete with those AI systems. So you better make sure you know what you're doing and you can show that off. Okay, I've got 3 other points that I want to make as well. The second point, artificial intelligence is not smart. AI has a bunch of magic tricks, and it has an ability to pretend that it's doing something fantastic when it's actually doing something kind of sneaky. What do I mean by that? It aggregates all the data that's out there on the internet and manages to average and homogenize it into one thing. And you see that with the AI art programs as well. You ask it for a picture of a bunny with a gun. It'll find all the pictures of bunnies and guns and pictures of bunnies with guns that are out there that human beings have made, and it'll synthesize and aggregate those together. The same as if you say, I want you to write me an assignment about estoppel. It'll go and find all the assignments and documents and bits and pieces around about estoppel and homogenize them together. But there is no thinking that goes on in this. It's purely going with the most frequent information that's out there. So what you find when reading AI text is it just tends to present a series of non sequiturs. This is this, this is this, this is this, and this is this. It is almost impossible for it to present an argument. And if it's presenting an argument, it's just cutting and pasting other arguments together. Now, at a base level, this can look really convincing. And this is why most universities are going to be changing their assessment. We're not really going to be able to be setting assignments as we have in the past, because it's very easy to fake an assignment using these AI systems. Sorry if you didn't know that, and that's a big revelation to you. But what it's really hard for these AI systems to do is to present a coherent argument. So a couple of outcomes in terms of for students is, number one, our assessment's going to be harder, because your baseline for passing has now been taken over by your AI. If an AI can produce that basic information, that's no longer a passing assignment. And the other thing is, it's going to mean different types of assessment. Now, many people, and especially including accrediting bodies, are pushing for return to 100% invigilated exams. I don't think that's a great idea. I mean, one of the obvious things is most of us don't handwrite much anymore, let alone writing for 3 hours and that being 100% of your assessment. But with the challenge of these AI systems, I can see there's a sense of desperation of, well, the only way we can tell if someone has skills is if we go back to these old exams. Now, I think there's alternatives. I think there's alternatives for doing things like live problem solving or via Zoom problem solving and saying, here's a problem, show us how you solve it, that sort of thing. But that's going to be something that comes out in the next year or so in changes to assessment. So it is very important that you are actually able, and as I said a little while ago, legal research is not just looking stuff up and regurgitating back. It's about problem solving and argument and all those sorts of things. So those things are going to become very important, and AI is not going to be able to do what you need it to do in terms of producing coherent, well-thought argument or anything like that. So point 2 was AI is not actually very bright. Point 3 is that AI is getting dumber. And it is. Why is that? Well, it aggregates information from what's available. AI is also mass producing information much faster than humans. So it's already scraped all the content that humans have created. It now, to go further, has to look at things it's created. And it can create thousands and thousands and thousands of documents per second. And what it does is it aggregates and averages across that. So, of course, it's just drawing on itself. So we've reached a point, and I'll put some links in the below the video if you want to follow up on some of the technology experts who've talked about the state of the technology. But all the proponents who are selling AI, who are selling sort of the snake oil as this being the new technology, whatever, they're basically selling those series of magic tricks. So type in a quote, oh look, there's a picture of the bunny with a gun. Not realizing or not telling us that AI is getting stupider and stupider all the time, because all it's doing is reiterating. And if you get one mistake that gets copied, then you actually end up with this sort of viral thing that occurs where it, and I'm not an expert on the technology, but I've looked at a lot of YouTube videos on this stuff, and I've read up some academic articles on it. It's not good for the future. It's a bubble that is going to burst. So if you miss your chance while you're studying to actually learn those foundation skills, thinking AI is always going to be able to help me, that AI is just getting stupider and stupider all the time. Now, the last point I want to make is specifically about what it is that lawyers do. And the point is that legal change happens at the margins. So coming back to the technology, what it does is just averages what the consensus view on something is. However, all the important legal work, all the important legal cases, the cases that go to the High Court, are about pulling out themes and ideas and concepts that are changing at the margins. I'll give you an example of that. Donahue and Stevenson, the famous snail in the ginger beer bottle case. Everyone remembers that one because it's so gross. But it's about the recognition of a tort of negligence, about this idea that instead of torts all being these very specific little writs, that there was a sort of a generic tort, that there's a duty of care, and if you breach the duty of care, you're liable. Now, that didn't come out of nowhere. There's a series of more than 100 years of cases where the English courts considered introducing something analogous to the tort of negligence, or the tort of negligence itself. And each time these cases appeared, the court said, no, we don't think it's there. There was a little bit of obiter around, well, maybe it could happen in the future. But what happened was gradually the obiter, what was happening at the margins, was getting stronger. And eventually, and no one really predicted it happening, the Donahue and Stevenson case happened, the right set of facts happened, the right political context happened, and everything flipped. And all of a sudden it was like, yes, we are, and there was a revolution in the law. What's the point I'm making is, if you took all the text of all those cases leading up to Donahue and Stevenson, and you put it through an AI system, it would just pick out the dominant story that's there. It would be very, very unlikely to be able to pick out that thread of this new tort that was sitting in the margins, that was developing, existing, and most lawyers didn't know. It was only a few inspired lawyers who were taking these cases again and again, getting knocked down, coming back again, trying again, that actually saw this change happen. So, in terms of the really good high quality lawyering that goes on, and not the everyday mundane lawyering, forget it, the AIs are going to have that covered. You're not going to find work there. But in terms of where we really need sharp people understanding the law, you go into using an AI, they're not going to be able to pick that stuff. Most people couldn't pick that stuff. You need a really clever legal mind to be able to tell that. So the final point I want to make there is that thinking that all that law is looking up what the law is and then telling you what the law is a severe underestimation or misestimation of the way law works. That law is actually a lot more subtle and a lot more intricate than that. And sometimes in our early studies, we kind of undersell that and we say just learn the rules and that's what they are. But in reality, lawyering is a different level of thinking, and it involves, in the majority of cases, you just go through what the rules are. And in the future, your AI systems and your chatbots are going to do that. Where there is need for work for lawyers is where there are those things happening on the margins, where there's the grey areas, the edge cases, and you're just not going to get that out of AI systems. So there's 4 things to think about in terms of AI systems, in terms of the importance of learning your legal research skills, your legal reasoning, your legal expression, and all those related skills, and certainly to show that the market for employment is getting more and more competitive than it has ever gotten before. And now is the time to learn those skills, because otherwise you're just going to get left behind. So good luck with it.